Hi, this is Dr. Christine Nangayan, aka the Spiritual Shrink, and I'm coming at you a full month into the quarantine from COVID-19. It's actually been a few days over a month, April 20th. And so I hope everybody's doing well. There were a couple of things that I wanted to talk to you about today, and I apologize, my hair is very long. It looks like the beauty parlors and everything that is sort of considered non-essential, everybody will be so excited for them to come back online because I know I'm in the same boat as many of you out there that need grooming services. But that being said, I wanted to talk about a couple of things today. The first is very common symptoms associated with spring allergies. So a lot of my patients are very concerned because they've got watery nose, a little bit of a cough, irritable throat, itchy eyes, and kind of feeling a little bit run down. No fever though, and no solid real cough. Those are very common allergy symptoms, and I myself have spring allergies, so I know that feeling. And there are a lot of really great graphs right now online for you to distinguish symptoms of COVID-19, the common flu, the common cold, and then typical spring allergies. So I would encourage you to look those up. Hallmark features of COVID, we're kind of at the end of flu season right now, even though there's still some cases out there. So right now they're saying at this point, with everything going on in the world, if you are experiencing flu-like symptoms, you assume it is COVID and just self-quarantine. The two hallmark features are definitely fever and cough for COVID-19. So fever being almost universal, not always, but like 98% of patients have shown fever that presented, that were symptomatic. They're saying there's 25% of people that can be asymptomatic carriers, but if you are having symptoms and wanting to distinguish, fever and cough are two hallmark ones for COVID that you don't typically see with allergies. You might get an occasional cough because you've got post nasal drip, drainage, and that can irritate your throat, and you might cough a little bit from that. But a real cough, that's not quite typical for allergies, and fever definitely not. So seek medical attention, of course. The thing, my husband and I live in northern New Jersey, and our services here, of course, we're in an epicenter area, have been overwhelmed. It's starting to get better, thank God. But they're asking basically shortness of breath. It really present for treatment if you're short of breath. If you can manage at home and your symptoms are mild, you can take Tylenol for the fever and just kind of manage symptomatically. Um, aches, pains, headache, that sort of stuff. You don't necessarily have to go in for treatment, but definitely self-quarantine. And you want to circle on your calendar the day that you have the fever, and then you kind of want to go out till you're 3 days without fever. That's when you're kind of considered to be past the viral shedding for the most part, but they still want a 14-day quarantine, of course. But my patients that have had it, that have been positive, we've been doing telemedicine, so this is all virtual. Their doctors are saying not to be around their family again until they're 3 days asymptomatic and 3 days with no fever. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. The second thing is we often find ourselves, and you can look at this in a psychological paradigm, you can look at this from a spiritual kind of stance, but people sometimes, have you ever heard this saying that there are no accidents in this perfect world? People will struggle to find answers for why they are in a predicament in their lives that feels very negative, that feels very disharmonious, that sort of like, why am I here? These are awful circumstances. I would never choose to be in these circumstances. And a lot of kind of spiritual gurus would say there's still something about this, that something is going to be born from this, in this broth, in this medium, that would never have had the opportunity to exist otherwise. Um, One example, and I can't remember his name, and I will find this out for you at some point, was a very famous author whose family was very wealthy prior to the Depression and the Great Depression era in the 30s, and very wealthy. And they lost everything, of course, when the stock market crashed. And he ended up living in the shanty towns, and he ended up becoming an absolutely amazing world-class author. And he often said, it's ironic because I never would have thought about writing otherwise, and I never would have had the experiences that propagated and propelled me to write if it hadn't been for the depression and losing wealth and having to live in a shanty town and seeing and witnessing what I saw and witnessed, and then having it kind of give birth to his ideas and his novels. So it's sort of that thing that I wanted to talk about today, because in the midst of coronavirus, people are sort of looking around their homes and just being like, what good can come of this? You know, they miss their former life, they miss getting out, they miss being social. Um, and I'm here to say that maybe there is something in this. And again, not to say that I'm happy about the coronavirus, not at all, but there is always something in a circumstance that may be bringing you to something greater, that just for whatever reason the route is quickest and shortest with this versus another way. Another very famous spiritual quote or affirmation is, your victory is always where you stand. People tend to seek a state of being outside of themselves, or based on a condition. In other words, I'll be happy when the coronavirus is over. I'll be happy when when I have $200,000 extra in the bank. I'll be happy when I have $2 million extra in the bank. And it's sort of like, if we put those conditions on our happiness will always elude us and chase us and be outside of ourselves. Something that we're always in a state of seeking rather than in a state of being. So your victory is where you stand. You have to choose to be happy where you are in your current circumstances. And that's exactly when something happens that brings happiness to you. It's ironic. So it's not the way to happiness. Happiness is the way. And I would encourage everybody right now to start thinking like that. There is no there is only here. There is no there. There's nothing outside of ourselves. It's also sort of the premise, the spiritual premise of today is the day. You bless yesterday, knowing it brought you to today. You bless tomorrow, knowing it holds endless and abundant wonders for you. But you live fully in the now. Today is the day. It's an active presence. It's true mindfulness. They say that the Hebrew interpretation of Yahweh, God, is I am. I am. Not I was or I will be or I'm going to be, but I am. So carpe diem, seize the day. Today is the day the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And I'm appealing to everybody right now, not just people that have spiritual beliefs or religious beliefs. There really is something in being mindful and in being present and in saying, I'm not going to wait for a condition before I allow myself to experience something. And maybe there's something about the condition I find myself in that will bear an experience I could have no other way. So, and you'll hear stories of this in the Great Depression as well. People that lost everything, and then people that suddenly found a niche and then became extremely wealthy who wouldn't have otherwise. It's not taking advantage of negative circumstances, but it's sort of saying, is there something I can do in the midst of this that brings me to a greater state of mind or a state of being or serves a higher purpose? And that's what I would encourage everybody to do right now. Think about what unique opportunity you have in being told you can't leave your house. It's still just crazy to me that we really can't leave our house right now. I mean, you can go outside and walk around. Of course, they're encouraging now, of course, wearing masks if you're in public and you can't socially distance. And I'm telling all my patients, please go to a park, please get outside, get fresh air, get sunshine, exercise your puppies, sit outside with your cat in the backyard. That's all going to help our state of mind. But maybe in this moment of stillness where we're not allowed to leave our exact living circumstance will bring about something positive for us that couldn't have happened any other way. We're all busy. We're all full of our demands and meeting our demands. And it's easy to kind of forget home and that home base. And even if it's just looking around your home and saying, if this is my sanctuary, maybe there's some things I want to do to make it different or make it more peaceful or feel more harmonious, or do something that makes it feel more feng shui, or, that sort of thing. Maybe there's something, again, I spoke to this in one of my earlier videos about that downtime for commuting that we're being asked to look at to create. I have patients that have 2 to 3 more hours a day. They're not commuting anymore. And that's a lot of time. That's a lot of additional time to say, what am I going to do with myself? Relax and be healthy and keep your immunity up and exercise and rest and laugh and do things that keep your mind balanced. I'm not saying you got to be sitting there thinking about how to make inventions to change the world, but I think all of us have desires of our heart that we don't necessarily think about or talk about every day, that this situation could definitely be fostering and nurturing and bringing forth. So that's what I would encourage you to think about today. And I will be back. I will be making more videos. And again, plain clothes, I want to show everybody that all of us, we're all sitting at home in the same circumstances. And so I really want to come to you kind of from the front lines in plain clothes, and see what I can do to enrich our thinking at a time where we all find ourselves in a state we never could have imagined. And I'm hoping that something comes of this that we also never could have imagined, but that is wonderful, and so that there may be positive aspects of this that we just are unable to appreciate right now. Sometimes it's just that shift in perspective, change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, sort of thing. Otherwise, I'm sending lots of love and light and prayers, and I hope everybody is doing well. And I promise to be back with more videos very soon. Take care. Have a good day.